Redditors from Europe who have been to the US. What was the weirdest thing for you? Redditors from the US who have been to Europe. What was the weirdest thing for you? How old stuff was. I spent a month in Regensburg, Germany. Regensburg is a 2,000-year-old town on the Danube River that was once a Roman outpost. There is still a part of a wall standing from the original outpost, a 2,000-year-old wall. There is a bar there that has been in existence since like the 1500s. I ate at a restaurant that has been there since the 1100s. I love Europe. In the US, random people strike up a conversation with you just like that. That has never happened to me in Europe, ever. The service stations on highways in Europe are ridiculously nice. They're clean and even in some less economically developed regions. I was able to get a quality espresso. It was an unhappy homecoming to North America when I wanted to bathe myself in disinfectant after using a toilet in one. A European friend of mine visiting North America for the first time was fascinated by the idea of yellow school buses. Most Europeans walk or take public transit to school. The idea of a separate fleet of buses to transport children was quite a novelty for them. It's like those red Solo cups. They're normal to you guys, but for me the literally only time I saw either were in American movies and TV shows, so seeing them in real life is always weird because you know they're real but have this notion that they only exist in movies. Weirdest thing in LA. Valet parking. Even in mid-range establishments it's often impossible to park your car on your own. In Europe the only places where you will find valet parking are extremely posh hotels. Weirdest thing in New York. The doorman. Again, not just in posh hotels but in any better residential building. It seems like something out of a different era. Weirdest thing in Washington DC. People making a lot of noise in the cinema. Went to see an action movie and the audience was cheering, clapping, laughing at the top of their voices throughout the entire movie. About the DC thing. American. Went to the UK, Belgium and Germany with my husband last year. He's English. Driving and roadways were very interesting to me. It seems that everyone in the UK drives very quickly and very carefully. In Germany on the Autobahn, OMG, like people got out of the way and pulled over if they were going slower than a car coming up behind them. That was insane and I got really spoiled by it. Also, I didn't see a single car crash while on that trip. We drove from London to Brighton, Brighton to Salisbury, Salisbury to Calais, Calais to Ypres Passchendaele, Ypres to Brussels, back to Ypres, then to Mainz, Germany and then all the way back to Salisbury. Didn't see a single car crash. I see like one a day in NM, or if I don't see one, I myself have experienced an near miss. We went to a wedding while we were in the UK, and as we were leaving the fricking castle our friends got married in no big deal and heading to a nearby pub. One of the guys grabbed a bottle of wine from the reception and started walking down the tiny cobblestone road with it in the open. I was like, oh my god, hide that, we're gonna get in trouble, the cops are gonna see, and everyone looked at me like I was nuts. Apparently you can just walk down the road with a bottle of wine in Lewis, UK. Europe to US. Drug commercials. Straight up weird. 28 seconds of a strange overly bubbly advert for something embarrassing boring and 2 seconds of mumbled disclaimer that left you going, wait, did he say causes blindness? Also televised political campaigns. I visited family in America. I was really confused that people would hang out with their neighbors. Yows are all weirdly forward and sociable as well. Speaking as a British person. German here. I almost got shot in front of Disneyland because I stepped out of my car when an officer stopped me. In America, the amount of people with some opinion on a bumper sticker on their cars. I also saw a guy in Phoenix with panty dropping emblazoned on his pickup truck. In high school I convinced one of my male friends to get a soccer mom magnet for his truck. When I went to Italy, from the US, paying for the bathroom. Seriously? As a Dutch person who just came back from Florida, freaking liquid cheddar cheese pump at 7/11, soda fountains with unlimited refills, big freaking soda cups everywhere. I mean, your smallest cup is our biggest cup at McDonald's. The way Americans seem to do everything by car. Sometimes the sidewalks are very small and it seems like no one is ever walking there. And a positive one to conclude. Most Americans are very friendly and hospitable. Freaking liquid cheddar cheese pump at 7/11. I don't think that's socially acceptable. Grits. Took me forever to work out what they were, and all the terms for the way to cook an egg. Hard boiled, soft boiled, poached, fried, over easy, medium, scrambled, and deviled are the ones I can think of off the top of my head. Just returned from Canada. Why don't they include their taxes on the price tags? Already put my $10 bill in my hand to pay, and put my wallet away. That'll be 11.20, sir. Foo. At least for the US. Every state has a different sales tax, but national chains want to advertise their prices as the same nationally, so they'll run an ad for a $4.99 burger, but it'll be anywhere from $4.99 to $5.50 or so depending on where you buy it. Local stores follow along because they don't want to have higher sticker prices than the national chains. I was in New York in 2009 and people were friendly as frick. If you think New Yorkers are friendly, just wait until you visit the rest of the country. Circa 1987 to 1989. German ketchup is not the same as American ketchup. Germany doesn't have hot fudge. German sidewalks don't have gum stuck to them. German public transportation actually has cloth seats. German girls can go into bars and drink at very young ages, that is 14. Germans don't use screens on their windows. SHHHHH. That might be a great business venture. German doors have levers and not doorknobs. Germany does not check for PKU in infants. Currently living in Germany. I wouldn't necessarily say weird, but one of the most difficult things to get used to is the drastic difference in manners. More so what is considered polite and what not. Americans are generally friendly and in such a way that they're always concerned with other people's business. This does have its benefits though. I don't have to have a forced awkward conversation with neighbors when they walk by or small talk with the cashier. However, when I first got here, I'd instinctively wave to people driving by and such and get a ton of odd looks. That and looking at things in a store rack. Germans will just cut right in front of you to grab stuff or bump you. Not that they're being mean, they just don't necessarily say anything. Just the way it is. Honestly, I like it. Everyone keeps to themselves, so to speak. Dane here. I was very surprised by the lack of efficiency on the public-owned transport network. I used the subway while in New York, and it was extremely weird how, for example, there were no connections across Manhattan. Unless you went down to Midtown. No monitors with a display of the time till the next train arrived at the station. And how when the subway was partly closed, at least the line I used, the chance to clean the tunnels etc. wasn't used. This general lack of efficiency was mind-boggling. Also, the extreme regulation was very weird, that is, at the WTC Ground Zero site there was a sign on every single little piece of grass flower bead stating that it was prohibited to walk onto said grass flower bead. I can't understand why one general, perhaps larger, sign could not suffice and replace the around 50 signs which were used, but I still believe New York is an amazing city. For me, part of the joy of visiting Copenhagen was simply seeing a city that had its act together. US here, went to the UK last year, was surprised how small even the largest cars were. Also, the bathroom stall doors seemed to always be full doors, which was very comforting. Try driving a large car through most of our towns. They can be a nightmare even in a small car. It's because in most of the older towns the streets were there for hundreds of years before cars and are designed for horses and carts. I recently just came back from Prague, and I'd say the weirdest thing for me is the fact that everyone smokes cigarettes, and also the entire time I was there I only saw 2 people who would be considered obese in the US, and because they were native Czech I automatically ruled it off as thyroid problems or something in that nature. To add to the whole service thing, as someone who went from the UK to Florida, it was funny to see the lengths service staff will go to ensure you're happy and that you remember them. Every waiteress had some sort of quirk that they played up to sometimes insane heights. This one waiter at the Ponderosa Steak Buffet, Timothy, was the most flamboyantly feminine man I've ever met, with full makeup and the most hyper-correct pronunciation of the letter S. And he would actually sit at our table for a good 10 minutes chatting while taking our order. I mean, it maybe he was like that off duty, but if it was an exaggerated act it sure as heck worked, because we'd eat there almost every night, and he'd always greet us by name with the warmest, friendliest and unsettlingly genuine smile that a human was capable of making. It was surreal. I mean, the guy was selling us food for a corporate food chain, yet I still remember him and the restaurant more than a decade later. One other thing I remember was being asked the time by some college age kids and just smiling and showing them my watch, only for the guy who asked to say, "Can you read that out?" I can't read old style watches. Not indicative of all Americans of course, but it did seem bizarre. To be fair, they probably thought I was weird. I mean, who just shows somebody their watch when asked for the time? It was a snazzy new watch. I spent 3 months in France for an exchange program. The biggest difference I found was how organized their meals were. The family I stayed with ate every 4 hours. 8 AM for breakfast, 12 PM for lunch, 4 PM for a snack, 8 PM for dinner. Always these exact times, every day. At my home we eat all over the place. Sometimes lunch is at 3, dinner could be at 10, breakfast doesn't happen sometimes. It was odd for me eating every 4 hours during the day other than just whenever food is ready. German here with lots of trips to the US both for business and travel. The waste of energy is just amazing. The insulation of buildings is a massive joke, and then you need an enormous amount of energy to heat and cool the buildings. And to cool off a car by letting the engine and the AC running for 20 minutes before start is just weird. Having 100 TV channels is amazing, but the amount of commercial breaks every other minute drives me nuts. What a surprise. A German complaining about lack of efficiency. Norwegian here. The insane amounts of homeless people and the status that comes with cars in the US. Rented a Mustang for a road trip and suddenly I was the hottest guy around. I like Mustangs, but it's really not something I'd regard as a symbol of high status. They're actually pretty inexpensive cars. While they are cool cars, I don't think many consider them a status symbol, especially when you consider that most SUVs and trucks on the road cost more than the top of the range Mustang. Having to pay for water in restaurants in Europe took getting used to. Returning to the States after 4 years abroad, the general stereotypes about America, while not necessarily prevalent, are definitely noticeable. Though there may only be one loud or morbidly obese person in a group of 50, they are the ones that leave the biggest impact. It's illegal to deny someone water for free in a pub here in the UK. I'm an American spending time in Germany right now. I have no idea why the frick they all drink carbonated water instead of normal water. I just want regular water. Ask for Stills water. From the US, effective public transportation. Being able to take a train or sub $50 flight to another city is awesome. Maltese here. Everything is so big. The cars, the buildings, the food, the portions, the people. Yeah, the Maltese aren't really known for our height. The people were nice though, way more open to interaction than in Europe. I will however say that the obesity is insane. I didn't know humans could get so big, and I think it actually affected me psychologically because I lost my appetite and slimmed down, coincidentally right after returning home. I never knew of Maltese people. Either you were a dog before I looked it up. Sorry. Belgian here. I did a road trip through some states a few years ago. The first thing I noticed is how open Americans are to everyone. People would suddenly start talking to me all the time. The amount of billboards and drug commercials were very weird. Some of the billboards were legit pee me off. Also, some of the southern areas freaked me out. The racist USA chanting redneck stereotype is very much alive in some areas. The free refills and free Wi-Fi everywhere were amazing. Dutch here. My first time US was about 10 years ago. I was a bit disappointed by the JFK airport. I imagined it to be much more modern and well kept than it actually was. Apart from that, constantly being asked how are you was a bit awkward. Fine without inquiring after their well-being was my go-to response the first few times. IDK, it just seemed like a very personal question to ask someone you haven't ever spoken with. Also, the insane amount of positive feedback people give you while talking with you. On the one hand, I thought it was very nice. On the other hand, it seemed a bit fake. I guess it depends on what communication style you prefer. I'm a German and went to the US last year. Why don't you guys build proper bathroom stalls? You know, without huge gaps between the door and the walls. You might as well just leave out the door entirely. Also, literally the first thing my buddy and I noticed when we arrived at the airport, even before we arrived at the police officer who checks your passport, is that all those menial working jobs are done by black people. I didn't see a single white cleaner. janitor, etc. in my 2 weeks there. You have been visited by the Bapis doggo of good old times. Comment drink well doggo to get infinite Bapis. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.